In this video, I'm going to be talking to a cryptocurrency privacy project that I haven't featured before that's doing something very, very different that they say they have a really great pedigree. That's what I'm going to talk about in this video.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Got crypto? Got a hardware wallet to keep your crypto safe? Then you have to have one of these to keep your seed phrase safe. The KEYSTONE tablet is fireproof, waterproof. You can use it to store 12-word, 18-word, 15-word, 24-word seed phrases. It comes with a full set of letters and everything you need to make sure that your seed phrase never gets destroyed or disappeared. Get one, get two, get three, have multiple copies. Use my affiliate link in the description below. Hi everybody, this is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. And in this video, I'm going to be talking to the CEO, the founder, I'm going to find out exactly, from Jackal Protocol. Now, Jackal Protocol is a project that's born out of the Cosmos ecosystem, and we'll find out about what it is and how it works and all that business. But before we get into that, please subscribe to bit.ly/CryptoRich Odyssey. I feature all sorts of stuff on Odyssey that YouTube wouldn't want me to feature. I have extra material there. Plus, also, please follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, and join my official Telegram announcements channel. I'll have the links in the description below. All right. Hey, Patrick, thank you so much for making yourself available. You're the CEO, founder, co-founder, something or other?
Yeah, I'm the co-founder of the Jackal Protocol, and I'm the CEO of Jackal Labs, which is a development company out of Canada.
Okay. All right. And I have the links to Jackal Protocol in the description below.
Wonderful.
So you did an airdrop fairly recently. You're part of the Cosmos ecosystem. Your project launched fairly recently. Do you want to say what it is? What does Jackal Protocol do?
Yeah, so what Jackal Protocol is, it's a really high security and digital privacy posture for data. So it's like an active cloud environment, but on blockchain rails. And why that's important is kind of all the same thoughts of why we think it's important to have finance on crypto rails for self-sovereignty, ownership, the ability to have control over your files, but also take all those different primitives and add them to something such as data storage and data transfer. So you have the ability to have something like a Dropbox, but built in the Cosmos ecosystem. And there's all kinds of different reasons why that's great, and all kinds of different reasons that we built it for both personal and enterprise use cases. But that's kind of what Jackal is. You can think of it from a really low level. It's just really like a Dropbox, but on blockchain rails.
Okay, so I could, for example, store my videos and data and stuff inside the Jackal Protocol Dropbox, and then companies can also use that for data storage.
Yeah.
Okay, but aren't there other services that already do that? There is Dropbox, there's Google Drive,
ALTCOIN, Arweave.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just talking about the legacy ones first, right? What's wrong with the legacy ones?
Yes, so if you want, there's kind of this gap where some organizations might want two things, or some individuals might want two things. They want really high security, so I'm the only person in the entire world that can see my files and access my files for whatever use case that might be. But I also want a scalable environment. These two things you can't have in the traditional markets, because when you use something like a Google or an Amazon AWS or a Microsoft Azure, and you use them for their scalable and ease of use and their platform that they have there, but you want to maintain privacy, that's not something you can have. So for our example, and I'll kind of give you a reason why we built this in the first place. Before starting Jackal Labs, we worked in digital forensics and investigations for law firms and corporations. And we wanted a way for you to have the ability to track evidence using blockchain technology, but also maintain a clean forensic environment. So I'm the only person that can access that forensic environment, for example. The thing is that if you want that environment to be scalable, like a cloud storage or like a cloud environment, you can't put that clean forensic environment on a public cloud like a Google, Amazon, or Microsoft. You have to have it locally, and that's really difficult to scale. So what we thought is it possible to have the best of both worlds while building on Cosmos blockchain technology, where we use Tendermint and the Cosmos SDK to build it out. That's kind of why we built something like this, is we want high security posture, high privacy posture, but also the ease of use and scalability of a cloud environment, like those legacy models such as Google, Amazon, or Microsoft, or Alibaba Cloud, for example. We can go down the list.
Okay, but now you may notice my expression. I certainly notice my expression because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, but how can you have scalability? How have you managed to have scalability without it being localized?
Yes. So it's the same way that we have scalability using blockchain for finance applications while still being localized. So if you think about it this way, so what we use the blockchain for is for permissions of who has access to what data at what time. We layer on a ton of encryption so no one can really see what your files are or who has access to what data. But we use the blockchain for the permission system. So when you store on the blockchain, we have one peer-to-peer network that are storage providers and they host encrypted data so they can't access it. We have another peer-to-peer network of validators. And this is kind of like what your traditional blockchain is. We have a bunch of validators who decide and verify who has what things at what time on this blockchain. So instead of not only having tokens on the blockchain, we also have data permissions on the blockchain. And the validators make sure that that is secure and make sure that they know who has access to what files at what time. So we have a permission system peer-to-peer network, and we have a storage peer-to-peer network. And they're different computer builds, and they all work together to provide this environment.
Okay, so I completely get the permission stuff on the because that doesn't take up a lot of data. But my understanding of the blockchain is you can't store data on it because it can't take the load.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You can really only store like about 1 kilobyte of data before it gets too expensive and it gets too silly. So that's why we have two peer-to-peer networks. Okay. One is the blockchain for the permissions.
That I get.
One is another decentralized peer-to-peer network of storage providers. So these are individuals all over the world that.
Okay, how does that work? Let's say I've got 100 gigabyte of data.
Yes.
And I'm using your application. So what happens to my data at the data end?
Yes. So what happens is locally, you use your public and private keys to encrypt the data when you're uploading the file. So what happens is you drag and drop into the Jackal Dashboard, you click upload file, that file gets encrypted locally on your machine before it even touches anything. So it gets encrypted. Once it's encrypted, you sign a transaction, that logs in the blockchain who has access to that data. And then what happens to the file, and this is the question that you're asking, it gets split 3 times and it gets kicked out to different storage providers all over the world. Whether they're, we have them in North America, we have them in Asia, Europe, they're everywhere. So what happens there is you have 3 different files on 3 different machines. And that is how your data is stored. All of it's encrypted, so they can't access it. They don't know whose it is because the blockchain knows that they don't. So we can talk about who would want to spin up a storage provider. It's data centers with idle servers is one of them. It's individuals who want to spin up storage providers in a scalable environment, whether that's a data center or something along those lines. Or some people even run machines locally from their house where they have gigabit internet and they're able to contribute to the network that way. The next question you're probably going to ask is, what happens if they unplug their machine? It's like, then where does my file go? Because I can kind of see your eyebrows going a little bit there. We have something in the blockchain called proof of persistence. The files are all
proofs. Sorry, I just got to say all these proofs, right? Was it?
There's proof of stake, and then there's proof of space time.
We know about.
Yeah, proof of everything.
Okay, I like that one.
Proof of persistence. Proof of persistence. So each storage provider, every X amount of time, let's say it's 15 minutes, they submit a proof to the blockchain that they have all the files.
Okay.
In the event that they unplug their machine, they're going to miss these proving windows that they have the files. When that happens, the contract's burned with the storage provider. It goes onto the strays pile, we call it, and then another storage provider will pick that up and then copy from the 2 other forms of redundancy. This is why this is important. Yeah, so it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole with files. So if one person unplugs, it can shoot to the other side of the world and get copied from the other 2 forms of redundancy. So it's a very resilient and very strong system from that perspective.
Okay, now these data centers, or where it's stored in these 3 locations, they're centralized?
Well, I guess you could say like blockchain miners are centralized or validators are centralized because there's one of them alone, yes, it's centralized, but as a network, it's decentralized.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So then it might be, say, from 100 gigabyte of data that's been split up into 33 1/3, sent to 3 different encrypted, then split up, then sent to 3 different locations around the world, and nobody can actually access it
other than you with your private keys.
With my private keys. Okay, and that it isn't just that you have 3 locations; you have many nodes. But
we have about 660 right now.
60 right now, but my data would go to 3 locations. Your data might go to 3 different locations, and so
exactly.
Got it. So I was thinking,
exactly.
You just got 3. Well, that'd be easy for the NSA to get to.
Well, what happens is that if one storage provider gets DDoSed, it would actually break the contract, and then it would form with another one of the other 60. So our storage provider set is growing exponentially week over week. So it's actually getting larger and larger as time goes on because we only really launched the live product about a month ago. Believe it or not.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so very, very new. Now, how do I know that your code, your project, your program actually does this? Is your tech, is it open source?
Absolutely, yes.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I'm not going to read it. I'm a social worker, not
Yeah,
but
no, it's
others
a
will have a look at it, right?
yeah.
Okay,
So it's completely open source. The only thing that is closed source is our dashboard itself, because that's kind of the secret sauce that we like to keep. But it's not really critical to the product. You can do everything from the command line as well,
right, okay. But in
and
the
it'll do the same
dashboard,
thing.
okay, so how can people be satisfied the dashboard doesn't have secret backdoors?
I guess you can't right now, but in the event that you really want a high security posture, you could air gap your computer during upload, and then you can do it from the command line if that makes sense. So you can do it that way if you want. If you don't trust that the dashboard is safe, it's just our only really real competitive advantage in this space. It's very common for a lot of front ends to be closed source.
Sure. No, I understand. And the challenge, I suppose, within crypto is that we're so used to open source because it gives greater security, but then there's always a threat that somebody's coming along and say, "Oh, I like that. Oh, I'll
Yeah,
do that too." Okay,
no, that's fair. I see us probably making our front end also open source pretty quickly after we get the network effect and the escape velocity going.
right. Okay. Now, how is your application different, say, to Filecoin and Internext and AKT?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a really good question. So a cache, we can start with a cache. A
Mhm.
cache and Jackal aren't really competitors. We do different things.
Right.
So a cache does cloud compute, where they're kind of like computing like GPUs and running computations. Jackal's storage. So Jackal doesn't do math. We can put it that
Jackal's
way, I
more
guess.
Jackal's more like
It's like
storage.
storage. Yeah, it's like storage lockers, and the cache is kind of like a computing environment. So the
Sorry,
ability to kind of run a validator or something, you can do that on a cache.
right. Sorry, Patrick. You may not know. There's actually a very old cryptocurrency project called Storage, and their coin is
Yeah.
STORJ. But
Yes, I'm
you don't
familiar
look
with them as well.
okay. All right. So how
Yeah.
is your people from Storage or Filecoin or
Yeah.
Internext?
Yeah, let's start with Filecoin, then we can do storage, then we can do even ARweave if you'd like. So what's the difference between Jackal and Filecoin? There's a number of different things. Number one, encryption, so privacy. That's something that Filecoin doesn't have unless you want to manage your encryption keys locally. The greater Filecoin network, as soon as you publish something to it, it's open for everyone to see. And that's okay for their use case. That's great. It's a lot of research data and publicly obtainable data that's anyways, but they just want a place to store. Other thing about Filecoin is Filecoin runs on a proof of work blockchain. So it's a little bit slower, and they only do really cold storage. So this is where you take really large data sets and you put them away to rest for a long time. And it's very good at doing that. Jackal isn't cold storage, it's hot storage. And we also really value like the privacy and security posture where you want to make sure that when you upload something to the blockchain network, it's private instead of being public for everyone to see.
Mhm.
That would kind of be the two difference. Filecoin, it can take up to 24 hours. They're getting a little bit quicker, but it can take up to 24 hours to retrieve your files back from the Filecoin network
Right.
because it's meant to be an archive. Jackal, it retrieves it instantly. And we can do a demo towards the end of the video if you kind of want to see it live in action, where it's kind of like more of a hot storage environment like a Google Cloud you'd be used to. Does that answer your question for Filecoin, or do you want to kind of
No, I
move
mean just
over
just
to something else?
generally. You can answer it generally as well compared to the other because there's
Yeah.
many.
Yeah, well, it's speed, number one for Jackal. It's privacy and security where no one can really see your stuff. And it's the ability to be a modular Cosmos blockchain with IBC. So we can have storage accounts with interchain accounts on all kinds of different blockchains. So it's a little bit more advanced from a speed perspective, but Filecoin is much cheaper, but it's for archiving,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay. Now, go on.
Yeah, and then another one would be ARweave is the other one that people think about a lot.
Mhm.
Difference between Jackal and ARweave is perpetuity and permanence. So you pay $9-ish per transaction, and then you store your data forever. That's great, but it also kind of has the same drawbacks where you don't have any privacy unless you want to manage your encryption keys locally again.
Right.
So what we wanted is a hot storage cloud environment for kind of like an everyday use case, while still maintaining like the security and privacy posture, which is really important for us
Yeah.
to
No.
build like enterprise applications because no one's going to touch it unless they have the ability to keep everything private because it's important.
Right. Okay. And I can see how it could be useful. Say, for example, I was thinking what happened with was it Snowden or even
Uh,
Glenn Greenwald? Glenn Greenwald got stopped, or his partner got stopped by the UK authorities traveling from Brazil to Germany, or vice versa, the other direction, traveling and got stopped in the UK. And I think they took all his documents. And I suppose one use case could be where they could have uploaded the data to Jackal in one location and then accessed it somewhere else in the world because it's decentralized.
The other beautiful thing that makes Jackal different, and I was going to keep this towards the after we did all the examples, but what makes Jackal different is we have on-chain permissions. So that means that everything is done on-chain for who has access to what data. Filecoin doesn't have that. Airweave doesn't have that. Storage has it, but they don't do it on-chain. They do it from like a centralized way to do that because they were built like a really long time ago, so they did the best with what they had at the time. Jackal manages all permissions on-chain. So, example, Rich, if I wanted to send you, let's say, a petabyte, a huge amount of data, I can send it to you on Jackal, where I'll grant you access to the Jackal permission system, where you'll have access to that in 6 seconds. So I can move really large sums of data instantly. And this is kind of the same thought about why is crypto better than the traditional banking system, right? You can send oodles and oodles of billions of dollars of money instantly in 6 to 15 minutes on crypto rails, and it costs you a few cents. The same with Jackal for permissions of data. You think about for privacy use case, for just general business use case where you want to send like really large sums between parties, or you want even military industrial complex use cases where they have to put servers on planes, for example, to transfer secure information between parties. Jackal lets you do that instantly, quickly, and for any amount of data that you want. It doesn't, whether it's a gigabyte or whether it's a petabyte or multiple petabytes, databytes, we can go all the way up the chain. It doesn't matter because it's all managed by the blockchain permission system.
Okay, that is amazing.
And the only two people that could access that data is whoever has the one private key and whoever they shared it with. If I revoke your permissions, so I say, actually, do you know what? I don't want to give Rich permissions to this 2 petabyte data set anymore. I can do that in 6 seconds as well. So granular control, chain of custody, these very important things that is kind of a mess right now in the traditional world because everyone has copies of different data and all that stuff. And you kind of lose control of who has access to what data at what time. So it's very important for enterprise use cases. Also, just the ability to send your friend something without thinking that an intermediary is going to steal your patents or wonderful idea, or data rooms for mergers and acquisitions. We can go down the list of all kinds of crazy use cases that we can use for Jackal.
Sure. Okay. Now, here's a thought experiment.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know what the answer you're going to say, right? But I'm going to ask it anyway. I take a 24-word seed phrase, I split it into 2, I upload it as 2 different files or something.
Okay.
So chances are it's going to end up in different locations. It's going to get encrypted locally and then split. Yeah. Each one will get split 3 times.
Yeah.
It'll be in different locations.
Yeah.
And then that's secure for my seed phrase?
Unless I wouldn't recommend ever putting a seed phrase on a computer regardless, because you don't know if your end device is encrypted, has malware on it, for example. So I can't recommend that you ever take your seed phrase and put it into a website or anything, just for security posture. But for the thought experiment, let's chat about this. For someone to access that file, they would have to determine, they'd have to grab pretty much every file. They're just guessing which file is Rich's. Right, so we have thousands and thousands. We're almost at hundreds of thousands. Last time I checked, we had 80,000 files on the network right now. If you would have to kind of pick a random file, get a quantum computer, and then break the AES 256 encryption on it, read it, say, "Oh, that's not Rich's seed phrase," put it back, and grab another random one, get your quantum computer. So you would need to, even if you had the capacity to kind of grab these files and break them with a quantum computer, you still don't know who's who in the zoo. So it's yes, in theory, eventually, maybe in 10 years, but by that time, we'd probably increase from AES 256 encryption all the way up to 512 probably, and then they need a bigger quantum computer. And this is a lot of money to get your crypto fortune. So you're going to start to get diminishing returns pretty quickly, and then we'll move from elliptic curves to lattices. But we don't have to get too technical here.
No, please don't get too technical. And then that entire process that you've described, how difficult it would be, like you said, is all open source, so it can be validated and checked that it does work that way. And then the important point that you made is about not putting your seed phrase on the internet in any way whatsoever. Which is what, by the way, it's a little plug I'm going to do because I have an affiliate link in the description below. I use the KEYSTONE metal tablet I have
Wonderful.
I have several of them to split my seed phrase, and they're in different locations, different physical locations. So affiliate link in the description below, and they've got something very exciting coming up with regards to Kepler in a few months' time. Anyway,
That's awesome.
so back to the plug over, because I have to make a living.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, there might be malware on your physical computer.
Yeah.
We don't know what's on your computer, so not even connected to the internet, just having it locally, you never know. You never know.
And there's going to be more and more of that as more and more people move into crypto, and the value of crypto goes up, and the governments print more and more paper currency. Well, formerly paper currency.
Well,
Okay.
People were doing it before even crypto, right? Like think about LimeWire. You'll download like an AC/DC song, and then your computer's completely bricked. So you got to be careful.
Right.
Be careful.
Good point. All right. And then you said that the number of storage nodes is increasing. Why? How and why? What's in it for them?
How? Yeah, so storage providers. So think about the same reason why validators are important for other blockchains. We incentivize more things than a traditional blockchain because we have these two peer-to-peer networks, validators and storage providers. What validators for our block rewards that are minted. So Jackal is an inflationary token. We should put that out front and first because it's important for us to have a product that works in perpetuity. So deflationary economics doesn't work for a product like this, unfortunately. But so let's say, for example, every 6 seconds, 10 tokens are minted. And this is kind of similar to a lot of different blockchains. 4 of those tokens would go to validators, and then 6 of those tokens would go to storage providers. And then storage providers are paid out relative to what percentage of the network is on their machine. Right. So if I had 1% of the network on my machine, I'm getting 1% of that 6 tokens every 6 seconds, for example, right? So that's how they're incentivized. Also, when someone purchases storage, or when someone purchases, we also have an RNS. We have a name service on Jackal, so you can send files between human readable names. We're going to have a bunch of other things that are coming down the pipeline as well. When someone spends to purchase something on the system, what happens is that goes to a trust that is a multi-signature wallet that's managed by the foundation, where then they determine the economics of the protocol. Do validators need more? Do storage providers need more? What is the current situation? And then that gets paid out that way relative to governance. So there's a bunch of different ways that storage providers are incentivized, but right now, the reason why it's growing is it's actually quite profitable to be a storage provider, not financial advice, obviously. No. But by being a storage provider, you can, at the early days of the protocol, where it's not as competitive, it's probably a pretty smart move if you have the capacity and the technical know-how to run infrastructure like this. Okay. As the protocol grows and becomes more competitive from a storage provider front, the network will get faster and everything will get better as time goes on. But if you don't reinvest in your machines, you're probably going to have an issue where you won't really be earning as much anymore. But that's kind of how mining works in general through Bitcoin, or it's kind of how these free economy permissionless systems work. It's you provide a better service, and that's kind of how that system operates.
Okay, and then you said it's inflationary. At what rate does it change? For me, or for other people who are in the Cosmos ecosystem, I'll be straight. It's like I'm interested in this because it gives me access to financial freedom. That's why that's why I think it's great tech, and it gives me access to financial freedom. If it didn't give me access to financial freedom, well, great. I wish you the best. I'm off somewhere else, right? I'll just stack my gold and silver, right?
Yeah. So it's you can almost say like it's inflationary, deflationary economics, and I can link you the economics paper for you to give it a read as well. So in the early days of the protocol, a lot more tokens are minted than it would be in 10 years, for example. So it actually tapers off. So it's kind of like
like Monero does. It slows down.
It's exponential. So we're never actually going to cross 400 million Jackal tokens, if that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
So it starts really inflationary, and then it starts to taper off as hopefully more and more users actually enter the ecosystem. And the Jackal protocol makes money by selling unique terabytes of data storage to users and selling block space to users. So the more demand for block space and more demand for storage, the token price increase, thus making it more profitable to be a storage provider and a validator, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So the way that economics works is it starts off quite inflationary, and then it actually tapers off, where it will never actually cross more than 400 million Jackal tokens.
Okay.
That's the current model. So that's kind of how that works. So it starts inflationary, and then it tapers off, like a lot of other protocols usually do.
Yeah. All right. And then do I need the Jackal protocol if I want to use upload data? I got to use the Jackal token to upload data, and then it's used to reward the nodes.
Yeah.
The data's.
Yeah. Right now. So we could also, here's the beauty of IBC and being in the Cosmos ecosystem. This is what's wonderful about that. So Jackal takes a fixed cost of Jackal tokens right now for data storage. So we take $8 a month per terabyte for storage. So
Well,
if you come to the Jackal,
per terabyte. That's
yeah,
that's
it's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty cheap. So that's kind of how it's factored in. And the reason why we wanted to go with a kind of like a SaaS subscription model for the protocol versus a marketplace model, such as like a Filecoin or ARB is a little bit of a marketplace model as well. We think Amazon's better than eBay because no one wants to bid on pencils and they want to make sound financial decisions on how much it's going to cost for a terabyte of data storage.
Right.
So the way that we do right now, if I want to buy a terabyte, it's $8 a month through our Oracle system of Jackal tokens. So it's always going to be that price, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So what happens is I take my Jackal tokens, I buy storage, whether that's for a month or I want it for a year or if I want it for multiple years, it's really up to the end user. And then I purchase my storage. And that's kind of how that works. The other great thing about Cosmos, and let's wrap it all back in, is if I took Atom tokens and I brought it to the Jackal protocol, I could in theory take $8 a month worth of Atom. And then in the background, I'm actually just buy back the Jackal token and then feed the machine.
Well, hold on. So I've got my what's it, $8? That's, I think, let's say it's half an Atom, $8.
Yeah.
It's not far off, right? I think Atom is about $12 right now at the time of recording, which is Monday, the 1st of May. So I've got my half an Atom.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do I do?
I go to the Jackal. Like this isn't enabled right now, but it could be enabled once we get liquidity approvals running. But I could take my Atom. I could go to Jackal Protocol. I could buy 1 terabyte of for a month of Jackal for $8. What will happen in the background is we'll take that Atom and we'll buy back the Jackal token and then feed the Jackal Protocol. But we could actually, in theory, not only take Jackal tokens, but we could take USDC, we could take Atom, we could take Osmo, we could take whatever the protocol chooses that it wants to take.
Okay, but that's not happening right now, but you can do that.
It's on the roadmap for actually quite soon.
It's on the roadmap. So right now what I need to do is get $8 worth of Jackal tokens per terabyte, which is actually pretty easy to do through Frontier or Osmo.
Yeah, so we're on Osmosis proper now. So we're not just on Frontier anymore. So we got graduated to the Osmosis front end, which is beautiful. So yeah, it's
not just on the Wild West. You've got a bit silly.
Yeah, it's not the Wild West anymore, but it was for a little bit, and that's fair because we were a new project.
Right. Okay. All right. So, and that's very, very easy to do. I think Osmo is such a great DEX. Okay. And then Jackal's also stakeable. What are the staking rewards?
Yeah. So right now, I think the staking rewards are 35. It really varies day to day, but I think it's 35% for staking.
Okay. So it is conceivably possible. This is not investment advice that somebody could have enough Jackal that the staking rewards is enough to pay for the storage fees.
In theory, that is exactly what is possible. Or if you're a storage provider, you could do the same thing over there, where you could actually stake to access storage. It's an idea, and it's definitely something that we've thought about. We haven't implemented it yet, where it's automated, but you could do it manually. In theory, you just need to stake enough Jackal to access your free storage.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. So that's the tokenomics, basically, pretty much. And you mentioned earlier you chose Cosmos, and I'm curious why. Why didn't you build on Ethereum? Didn't you want to have a slow, clunky platform which has really high transaction fees? By the way, Patrick, I didn't know I was going to say this, right? I've got about $700 worth of ETH in a pending transaction for over 18 days now.
That's interesting.
And I've done it.
I didn't know that could happen.
I've done it through MetaMask. I've used it. What you got to do is you got to send the 0 ETH with the same nonce as the original transaction, and then that will cancel the original transaction. I tried that several times, and my ETH 700, which I was actually using to buy Atom to put into the Cosmos ecosystem.
They knew what you were doing. They knew what you were doing. That's the issue.
And it's just stuck. And so how do you choose a blockchain like that?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about why it would be important for an application that's not financed to use Cosmos Rails. For us to provide the product that we want to provide, we need to alter the blockchain modules at their core, if that makes sense. So imagine the file tree for Jackal, for us to be efficient, for it to be fast, for it to be a best user experience and the focus on the end user. We actually needed to make a file tree module in the blockchain. And we needed to make a storage module in the blockchain and a name service module in the blockchain, not on the application layer. So all of this is built directly into the chain. This chain is an application-specific blockchain built for data storage. It's not trying to take something that wasn't built for data storage, whether that's Ethereum, and then try to make a smart contracting platform that's not really efficient to try to morph it into this storage product, right? Also, think about gas transactions on Ethereum. You want to pay, even right now, it's still pretty expensive. It's like $4 to $8 per transaction. That means that every time I send a file, or say someone wanted to build an email platform on Jackal, which someone could do, every time you send an email, you have to pay $8. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. So we needed to make sure that we had granular control over the blockchain itself and purpose-build an application-specific blockchain for the use case that is storage. Plus, the other beautiful thing about Cosmos is IBC. So think about this, where are you familiar with Juno Network and DAO? It's a DAO platform. This is we haven't talked to the guys about this over at DAO, so this might come to a surprise to them if they're watching. In theory, every DAO on DAO could have a Jackal storage account for the entire DAO. Paid in Juno, managed on DAO, something called interchain accounts. This is what makes Cosmos beautiful. We could do the same thing on Osmosis. We could do the same thing on Kujira. We could do it on Yumi. We have the ability to have not only tokens and financial transactions between blockchains, but we can have the ability to have storage accounts between blockchains. That's amazing.
That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And it is, and you know, I said to you beforehand that, I just think the Cosmos ecosystem is just brilliant, absolutely brilliant, cheap, fast, really well run, and that the blockchains can communicate with each other, no risk of load, and all these different projects with real world use cases launching, like your project, like DVPN, like of course Chihuahua, because what the world needs is another dog face coin.
Yeah, well, we kind of played ourselves on that because we actually look like a meme coin a little bit from face value. So that wasn't. We weren't crypto natives. We weren't crypto natives when we started, when we named the protocol. So
that's right. We need
that might have been a little bit of a marketing blunder, but at the end of the day, we like the name. We like the name.
Well, if people buy your token because they think it's a meme coin and then start staking it, well, good for them. But just the gas fees and on meme coins on Friday, I bought $85 worth of Pepe through Uniswap.
Oh.
Complete win.
Okay.
It's like, okay, I'll go for it, right? Let's go for it. No, didn't put in any more than I'm willing to lose. Okay, $85 because the gas fee was $15. Nice. So $100 of Pepe. We'll see how that works out.
It is the way it works. It is the way it works.
It is the way that it works. Whereas on Osmo, Osmosis DEX or in the Cosmos ecosystem, I'm paying fractions of a penny for really fast transactions.
Well, the question that you're asking is vertical scalability versus horizontal scalability, right? So if an application gets big enough in the Cosmos ecosystem, the next logical step is for it to become its own blockchain.
Yeah.
Because now you can purpose build that blockchain for the use case. So now Cosmos is scaling horizontally rather than scaling vertically like Ethereum, where you're trying to jam more and more transactions into limited block space. That's kind of just how that works, right?
Yes, and it is because you mentioned before we started recording is that because I thought Jackal was part of the secret ecosystem. You came out of that and you've now built your own layer one blockchain with smart contract functionality because Secret Network, you said to me, has financial privacy and you don't need that. You need data privacy. So
yes.
So how do you do your privacy?
So the Secret Network is very, very special. And I love what they're doing and I love what they're trying to do. And I think they're the best generic privacy platform where you have something called programmable privacy. So not just the ability to be private and just in crypto, everything right now is either public or it's private and there's no middle ground. And Secret really serves that market really well where you have programmable privacy. So it can be private if you want to, or you can unlock it and share it with your friend. And that was important for Jackal for the permission system that we were talking about a little bit earlier, right? So Jackal doesn't need general privacy. Jackal needs specific privacy. So what we had to do to sacrifice, we had to sacrifice for the speed and the ease of use of the data storage side to make sure that all of that is completely private. We had to sacrifice the token balances and how many tokens does each wallet have. We did have to sacrifice that. Reason being is that the way that Secret Network does their programmable privacy is this hardware called SGX. So it's secure enclaves in their validator set.
Yep.
didn't really have that speed element, and we were starting to get bottlenecked by that. So we had to move to our own L1. And what we do is we use a bunch of different encryption mechanisms. So we end-to-end encrypt the data beforehand, and then we do kind of the pseudo proxy re-encryption thing going on as well. So there's all kinds of, I don't want to get too technical because I'm the CEO, I'm not the CTO of Jackal Protocol, but everything's in our documents from our encryption libraries. How's everything done? And I'm sure we can link that in the description as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And then what have you got coming up on the roadmap?
Yeah. I can pull up the document for you. So right now, file sharing is working right now at the CLI level. So if you're a super power user, you can use it from the terminal. File sharing is next, then Cosmosm integration. So adding the Cosmosm module into the blockchain so people can start building smart contracts on top of the Jackal and build different products and different use cases. One-click storage provider setup. So right now the barrier to entry to be a storage provider is really large, and it's kind of difficult unless you're a technical individual. So we have the team at Prador, who actually built on a cache first. They built the cache provider setup, one-click deployment there. So they're going to be doing that for us as well, and they're a great team. File sharding. So this is kind of the next thing for us. Earlier when we said Jackal has 3 times redundancy, so for each file there's 3 full copies on the blockchain, in the storage network and managed by the blockchain. We're going to be turning that into something called file sharding. So instead of it being 10, it's going to be 30 pieces of the file, and that's kind of there's some crazy math that goes behind that. So the mathematicians we got out of Waterloo University were great. So that's kind of on there. Interchain accounts, so for the ability to do that DAO integration, for example, with the guys over at DAO or OmniFlix, for example, if they want to store data on Jackal Protocol. Have that interchain accounts functionality between blockchains. That's coming. Publishing. So pay once and store for 200 years, for example. I want to publish a white paper. I want to publish a newsletter. You want to publish this video. You could publish it to Jackal and it can be there indefinitely. So that's something that we want to build as well. Jackal, we could start to play with DeFi applications and having liquidity pools for us to accept things like Atom for payments. That would require a liquidity pool and a swap function. So you'd have a Jackal swap type product. Not really looking to compete on the DEX front, but for us to do that ability to accept multiple different currencies tokens, you need to have liquidity pools in the protocol as well. So it's kind of everything that we're working on. It's kind of a mouthful, so it might be a little bit.
Imagine that's just the stuff you're building on now, but I can imagine it growing and diversifying, especially the bit about where other groups or projects can build their own applications that are derived from the Jackal protocol, different ways of storing. And I suppose also maybe even perhaps applications that are suited towards particular niche markets.
Yeah, 100%.
Very interesting.
You could have all kinds of stuff on really application specific things where you could leverage the protocol for what it does well. Jackal is not, we threw a Dropbox front end on it for the initial just MVP use case, use the infrastructure, but Jackal's an infrastructure.
Yeah,
it takes developers to come and build different unique applications, which is really important. Human capital is important to every blockchain.
Okay.
So that is something where we love it when developers come and build different things. So we have the guys at Serenity Shield coming and building on us. Prador is coming and building on us. We have a few other developers that are in the Discord that are working on different applications right now. That's what we love, is just developers coming and building.
Okay, and how are you funded?
Yeah, so we raised capital back in 2021, November, and we kind of closed that in March or April of 2021. So we were completely funded from it was a really small seed round. That's how we were funded. That's how that worked. We haven't had to sell any tokens, which that is the beautiful thing about going the venture route. Specifically for a software development company like us, where we're able to not really put any sell pressure onto the protocol in its early, most vulnerable stages. So that's how we were funded. We have 12 developers full-time on staff that are just working really, really hard to build awesome specific products and make sure that the applications and the infrastructure of the Jackal protocol just gets 1% better every single day.
Right.
So that's how we're funded.
And then you did the what's pretty standard within the Cosmos ecosystem. You gave away your tokens, and then the market decides what the value of them is, and then it also, people get involved and find out, which is what happened with me and Osmo. I told you I bought some Atom on a whim. That was my extent of research. Oh, this looks good, I'll buy some. Bit like
really?
that. And I didn't have to pay the large gas fees like I had to do with my Pepe tokens, right? And then I found out they were giving people who had Atom Osmo. And then Osmo was like, oh, okay, this is really good. And then I got Juno Swap because I had Osmo, and then I got Chihuahua, and so on and so on and so on. Okay.
That's beautiful.
Free money.
Yeah, well, we airdropped to Atom, Juno, and Secret. So we did kind of like a 5% triple airdrop to those communities to kind of get the initial token liquidity out there for people to start using the platform. Also, it was enough for them to come and just try it out, right? So it's a little bit of marketing. It's a little bit of just decentralization and utility right out of the gate.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Patrick, is there anything else you want to let us know? Anything we haven't covered?
I honestly think that I'm just first and foremost, I'm really happy to be here. I think that it's really great for you to invite me onto this. Other thing is, if you believe that blockchain technology goes beyond financial applications, I think we're the ecosystem for you. And if you believe that this is not just for breaking the banking system, but it has use cases outside of finance, Jackal Protocol is a community of relentless developers that are going to make sure that we just build the products 1% better every single day and make sure that we can really build a resilient system using this blockchain technology for something that's not finance. And that's kind of the only thing that I would like to say before we leave, other than you want to see the product.
Sure.
you want to see it work.
Sure. Let me share the screen. Let you share the screen.
This is always the live demos as well, right? So you never know what's going to happen. Let me get the whole desktop going here. Can you see this okay?
Yep, I can see you proving ownership. That's not your private. Yeah. That's just the connection to the Kepler.
Yeah, so what's happening right now is this is the Kepler wallet I'm using. So it's just a little, let's actually go to this one here. Makes a little bit more sense. What's going to happen is we are going to prove ownership of that. I just switched wallets in the middle of there, so that's what's happening right there. I'm going to prove for this wallet. And it's taking my private key. It says, okay, prove that you're the individual that should access this cloud environment.
Okay, and it's connected through your Kepler wallet, and then you own the private key because you've got the secret phase of your Kepler wallet, safe and secure offline.
Yeah. So everything's completely safe and secure offline. I'm using a software wallet. In the future, you're going to be able to use a hardware wallet as well if you want a really higher security posture for your data. But what this is pretty much you have breadcrumb navigation in your files and folders here, and you have the ability to download different files as well. Do you know what? There we go. So for example, this is a file that I've uploaded to the Jackal Protocol. It's just like a little piece of marketing. It's a marketing use case, and that will come to the protocol. You query the storage providers deliver the product. That's kind of how it works. So I just have the ability to store files in a decentralized and permissionless environment. What I can also do is I can take this, I can drag and drop into here, I click encrypt and upload, and what's happening is it's taking the file, it's end-to-end encrypting it on my system locally, and then what's going to happen is it's going to push it out to 3 different providers that are out there. And there we go. I'm going to sign a transaction. We're talking cents of cents, obviously.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is that's going to be uploaded. Depending on what storage provider I got, depends on how fast it's going to be. And I just downloaded that SVG, and then it should be right here.
That is amazing. It looks like it's really easy to use. I mean, even I could manage this user interface.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, right? You
very
have
very
name
simple.
Service as well. So this is the name service. We're going to do a facelift of this pretty soon because you have to remember that we just did all this. I actually bought Jacob from Notional a name. I'm going to transfer that to him. And so you have all kinds of names for human readable peer-to-peer transfers of information as well.
And then people will
I think it's special.
People can buy those names with Jackal tokens.
Jackal, yeah. So we can register a name here. I want Rich.
Crypto Rich.
And then I want to do that for, we can do Crypto Rich.
You can register.
I can register that. What's going to happen here is it's going to ask me, I don't know if I actually can afford this transaction. I'm going to pay it for 2 years. And assuming that I have enough in my wallet, I don't know if I do. We only have a few Jackal here. Let's see if it'll work. But then you'll get your RNS name. It's a pretty fascinating system. I don't think I have enough to pay for it, unfortunately.
No worries.
So that might be an issue here. But it's gonna look at me funny, and then it's gonna refund my money back. But
okay. And then what does that do? Having the own name, registered name service. What's the?
Yes, so it's the same reason why you want like an ENS, for example, so you can peer-to-peer transfer different files between parties, for example. So if I want to send a file to you, I don't have to remember your Jackal wallet address. I can actually just send you to cryptorich.rns, for example, or .jkl.
Okay.
So I can just remember that. It's kind of like email for that example, where I just want to send you a file, but I don't want to remember your really long wallet address.
You haven't memorized my public address yet.
No, unfortunately not. I only had a few minutes before this started. I have to tell you.
All right, if you go back to the file storage, please.
Yeah.
Because something I see new folders, so I can have as many folders as I like, provided I don't exceed the monthly storage that I'm purchasing.
Yeah, so files are really small. Like we're talking kilobytes, so you could probably have as many files as you want from a terabyte perspective. So pretty much, I just add a new folder here. I'll just write crypto rich. What's going to happen here is I'm going to approve that. It's going to create a folder. Hopefully, I have a really quick storage provider because some storage providers are faster than others. And when you throw up to the dashboard, you randomly assigned one. So as the network matures, it gets faster and faster as time goes on, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So this storage provider is a little bit slower, so it's going to take a little bit of time. But this is something that really only happens in the early days. It says, okay, we uploaded your folder to the network. What's going to happen here is I'm going to click approve, and then all of a sudden, CryptoRich is going to populate right here, and then I have a brand new folder.
And that folder's encrypted, and because it's encrypted, because photos, I'm sure somebody else has got a folder called photos or called work. It doesn't really matter because it's completely inside your account and encrypted inside your account. So there's no risk of duplication.
Yeah, no, there's no risk of duplication at all. So then you can upload it to that folder, for example. I just clicked on the memes folder by accident, but yeah, you have breadcrumb navigation as well. So that's cool.
Very good, very good. All right. That looks really, really exciting. Thank you. And very, very easy to use. Very easy.
And all the billing just is managed here as well. So you just select. We're going to be unloading the cheap 2 gigabyte option as well. So that's going to be like 14 cents for 2 gigabytes. So everyone at that price point should be able to come and join and try out the network. And then the next is storage advanced, which is 1 terabyte, 5 terabytes, and then 100 terabytes.
Right. And 1 terabyte will be more than enough for a retail user.
Yeah, so that's the big thing is Jackal's primarily, obviously we really focus on the end user and the retail end user that would want to use a product like this. But Jackal Protocol makes money by selling unique terabytes of data storage. So the business-to-business applications of this is what we really have to focus on as an organization.
Right.
That's the main focus because we need to move data on petabyte scale for this to work.
Great. Okay. All right. Thank you. Do you want to stop sharing?
Yeah, 100%.
Patrick, thank you so much. Anything else you want to let us know?
I think that's everything. I think we touched everything. I can't think of anything.
And without a script, no questions, the pre-prepared questions. Been doing this for a while.
No, it's just authentic. It's just authentic because that's what we care about, right?
Yeah. No, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Anybody who's watching, if you have Jackal, give me the ticker symbol. Don't give me the coin or the token. Give me the ticker symbol, JKL. If you don't, give me any ticker symbols as comments because the comments help my channel grow. They feed the algorithm, and I'd really, really appreciate that. And also come and subscribe to me at bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey. Any comments or questions, let me know. I'll have all the links for Jackal Protocol. Patrick, so appreciate you making the time because you did say how incredibly busy you are. It's one of the fabulous things about crypto that I can speak to CEOs and co-founders of projects. So really appreciate it. And I look forward to having you back on again. I'll speak to you about that in a moment. So thank you. And everybody who's watching, please keep filling your pockets with crypto profits. This is Crypto Rich and Crypto Patrick signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.